Hey guys, my name is Chaitanya Parwal, and the resource website that I decided to research is called Family Diversity Projects. So, a bit of introduction about this resource. So, this resource is basically the way that they do it is that they share many exhibits, and these exhibits have a bunch of stories of different families from different backgrounds. Um, these different backgrounds may be immigrant families from places like Mexico or Europe or even Asia, and it shows the stories and has different videos or image montages that really emphasize their struggle and how they kind of grew up out of these struggles and how they faced bullying, harassment, and stereotypes to grow up and shape them to be the people that they are today. To add on, I'm also an immigrant. I moved to this country when I was a young kid, and stereotyping is something that always bothered me for this reason. I remember living in different places and in different states. I moved around quite a lot when I was young, and because of this, I always got stereotyped for being Indian or being brown, and I always got called different names and faced a bit of bullying as well. So I thought doing this resource would be another really good way, and will be really good for me as well. I also was really curious to learn more about how all of these people had their own stories growing up. And this kind of goes on with the phrase that says everyone has a different story. I really believe this phrase a lot, that everyone has their own story and their own struggles that they grow up with. And I was really curious to learn more about these stories from these families. So, to add on, some things that I learned is from this website is firstly, this website offers many exhibits that show families from different backgrounds. So, from these exhibits, you can learn about all the different stories from all of these families, and as well as you can learn how each person had their own struggle with growing up, especially with education and their classroom and not being accepted. So, just for some further context, when I say families from different backgrounds, just like how I stated before, this can mean families from different ethnic backgrounds as well as people who have self-identified to something that's not in the norm. For example, people in the LGBTQ community. So this website does a really good job in emphasizing these stories. To continue on, some things I also learned is that society shouldn't make you change who you are. These stories do a really good job in emphasizing how society did not change some of these people and how they kind of used these stereotypes that were thrown at them to kind of strengthen their mental fortitude and to make them become the people who they are. Furthermore, these exhibitions can also do a really good job in reducing bullying in schools if shown at an early age. For example, these kids will be able to understand that you shouldn't judge someone based on their appearance or their identity. These exhibitions are a really easy way for kids to learn this, and therefore, I think it's a really good job. These guys did a really good job in making this in a way that younger children could really learn these social issues. In terms of technology integration, um, the this website does a really good job in showing videos of different people's stories, and it does a really good job in these videos to show how these people grew up and used their identity from their diverse backgrounds to really emphasize their struggle and how they succeeded later on in life. This website also provides photo montages of different families. These photo montages are kind of like a museum like montage where it shows different families from this specific website. It showed families from the LGBTQ community and really emphasize on these facts as well. To add on, this resource can really benefit the classroom learning since it provides very straightforward videos and montages that could easily be learned by young kids. As stated before, making these videos and making these montages are a really engaging and fun and easy way for young children to learn about these social issues. So to go on to some highlights that were shown in this resource is firstly that they use stories of diverse families to show how stereotyping, bullying, and harassment should come to an end. The main point of this resource is to kind of show and emphasize this fact, and is to basically terminate stereotyping, bullying, and harassment. So I think this website does an extremely good job in this aspect. To add on, the videos and interviews are also very engaging. Never once was I bored or thought that I want to end this video, because these stories were honestly extremely interesting and extremely inspirational as well. The photo montages are also very interesting and engaging to nevertheless. And seeing all of these photos, I would have thought that they would have been boring, but not once did I think in any of the photos in any of these montages that these are boring or repetitive or anything of that sort. Because even in these photo montages, it showed the story of each family in that photo, which made it a lot better and a lot more engaging as well. To go on to the pitfalls that this resource has is, honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had a hard time in kind of coming up with some pitfalls, because this resource was honestly a really good tool and a really good resource. But if I had to pick a couple, I would have to say that the video interviews that show the stories could be a bit too long for most people. They were about 10 to 12 minutes in length. I don't think that's an issue personally, but I can see how some people might find though that length to be a bit boring. So if they would make the videos a bit more shorter and a bit more concise, I guess that would help most people and can make it a bit more engaging. But like I said before, I don't think that's a big issue that this resource has. Another thing is that they provide a lot of personal stories and information from a lot of communities. But when I looked at the LGBTQ families and the stories from there, it didn't have the most amount of information. So if they would add a bit more information on these topics, then that would also be really, really more helpful to the people from these communities as well. So my personal opinion is that overall, like I've emphasized before, that I think that this is a really good resource and is a great way to educate the public on these issues. I think this resource does a really good job to put out these stories and make sure these stories are heard by the public. And lastly, this resource, it has a really good intention behind it to solve these issues happening in society. I think a lot of people say that these issues are really dominant in today's society, but no one's really doing anything to solve them. Whether it be racism or sexism or anything from these sorts, stereotyping, harassment, bullying. These are issues that I've heard from teachers in schools since as long as I could remember. But the problem is that not that the teachers are telling their students about these issues, but it's for the teachers and students to actually do something about it. If these issues were actually being looked at and being looked at to improve, then we would not be hearing so many stories about these problems. For example, just really recently, the whole Black Lives Matter movement was a really good example, really showing how this country, how there's people in this country that are still racist towards people from different backgrounds. Even bullying from people who from the LGBTQ community or who don't identify as the norm, they should also feel accepted in our community. And I think that's the part I really love about this specific resource, is that they really emphasize on these factors, and they don't hide away from these stories. And I think it's really, really important that this resource is shown to young children and to people even in elementary school, to kids in elementary school, to learn about these stories so that they're aware from a young age and can do something as they grow up to really help prevent these issues as they grow up. Because at the end of the day, everyone is born, the same. No one's born racist or in a bullying mindset, but it's society as we grow up that tend to shape these people, that make these mistakes of bullying and stereotyping and harassment. So if shown from an early age that these are the wrong things and something not to do, I feel like that would be really helpful. And this resource is a great way to do that. So moving on to three questions I have for you guys in the audience is firstly, do you feel that photo montages are enough to give the audience enough information? I know that videos are a really great way, and interviews are a really great way to have a lot of information. But do you guys feel that photo montages provide the same amount of information as these other resources? My second question is, which group of people do you think deserve more attention in these exhibits? So if you guys go on this resource, you'll see all the different families and people from the different backgrounds. So which group of people do you guys think deserve more attention? And lastly, do you think these exhibits are a good way to educate children on these topics? Or in other words, do you think that if these exhibits were shown to kids from an early age, do you think that would be a good way to educate them on these topics? And lastly, these are my sources. Thank you for listening in.